She stood at the back door of the most expensive bakery in the city, soaking wet, holding a birthday cake drawn in crayon by a 6-year-old girl. She asked one question, quietly, politely, and they laughed at her, out loud, in front of everyone. What nobody in that room knew was that the woman sitting in the corner had been watching every second of it, and she wasn't just any customer. This homeless mother had spent 4 months giving everything she had to children too sick to go to their own birthday parties. $214 she didn't have, every Tuesday night, for free. Nobody knew. Nobody was supposed to know, until now. Before I begin, drop a comment and tell me, are you watching this in the morning with coffee, or are you a late-night story person? Let's see who's here. The rain came down in that particular Portland way. Not dramatic, not violent, just relentless. The kind of rain that soaks through a jacket in minutes and doesn't apologize for it. Maya Reyes stood at the back entrance of Celeste Patisserie, the way she'd been standing there for almost 3 minutes, practicing. Her lips moved slightly, not praying, rehearsing. She had been a head pastry chef for 14 years. She knew how to speak to people in professional kitchens. She could do this. In her left hand, folded once along a careful crease, was a piece of paper. Lily had drawn it that morning in the hospital waiting room. A birthday cake in purple crayon, 3 lopsided tears, 6 candles across the top, and at the bottom, in shaky capital letters, Mama's Cake. Lily had given it to her with both hands, an enormous ceremony, the way 6-year-olds give gifts they believe will solve everything. Maya smoothed her jacket, squared her shoulders, pushed open the door. The inside of Celeste Patisserie smelled like browned butter and vanilla and money. Display cases ran the full length of the room, lit from beneath. Cakes in shades of ivory and rose and deep gold, each one tagged with a small calligraphed card. The cheapest item on the board behind the counter was $14. The man at the counter was broad, ruddy-faced, wearing a black polo with the Celeste logo embroidered on the chest. He saw her the moment she walked in, the damp jacket, the worn kitchen clogs, the hospital volunteer badge still clipped to her collar, and his expression made a small, precise adjustment. Not hostile yet, just reclassified. "We're closing in 20 minutes," he said. "I know." Maya kept her voice even, professional. "I'm not here to buy. I wanted to ask if there's anything left over at the end of the night. Any unsold cakes, anything at all. Tomorrow is my daughter's 6th birthday and She didn't finish. She didn't need to. He'd already turned toward the counter behind him. "Hey!" His voice carried across the entire room, loud enough to be intentional. "Come look at this." 2 employees drifted over. A few customers near the display cases turned. Brendan Walsh spread his hands on the counter and smiled, the wide, theatrical smile of a man who had decided he had an audience. "We've got a situation here. Lady wants to know if we have any leftover cake." He paused for effect. "For free." Someone laughed. One of his employees, quick and compliant. "We don't give charity to people who can't afford to be here." He said it loud and clean and satisfied, the way a person says something they've been wanting to say for years and finally found the right occasion. Heat crawled up Maya's throat. Not shame. Something older than shame. The specific burn of being made into a spectacle by someone who had decided it was safe to do so. She was aware of the customers watching. She was aware of the phone someone had lifted near the pastry case, the small rectangle of light tilting toward her. She stood straight, shoulders back, chin level. "Thank you for your time," she said. She turned and walked back out into the rain. She did not run. She did not cry. She tucked the crayon drawing back into her jacket pocket and walked to the bench at the corner of the parking lot and sat down. In the far corner of the bakery, a woman in a charcoal wool coat closed her laptop. She had been sitting at the corner table for 90 minutes, reviewing quarterly reports and a cup of Earl Grey that had gone cold. She had seen everything. She had started to rise. The crowd had shifted, and the moment had closed before she reached the counter. She sat still for exactly 4 seconds. Then she stood, buttoned her coat, and walked toward the door. The phone video was already uploading. The bench was wet. Maya knew that before she sat on it and sat anyway, because sitting was what her legs required right now. She took the drawing out of her pocket, unfolded it along the crease. Lily had pressed so hard with the purple crayon that the candle flames were almost holes. 6 of them, each one slightly different because Lily insisted on making each one count. She was folding it back when she heard footsteps on the wet pavement. The woman who sat down beside her wore good shoes. Maya noticed that first, not as envy, just observation. The professional habit of a person trained to read a room in seconds. Good shoes, good coat, silver hair cut in a clean bob. She sat on the wet bench without hesitating, as if the wet didn't apply to her, or as if she'd simply decided not to care about it. "I was in the bakery," the woman said. "I know." Maya kept her eyes on the street. "You don't have to say anything." "I'm not going to say I'm sorry. That's his to say." The woman paused. "I wanted to ask about your daughter." Something in the way she said it, without pity, without performance, made Maya look at her. She told her. She didn't know why exactly, except that her body was exhausted from holding everything in a professional shape, and this woman was asking plainly, and Lily's birthday was tomorrow, and Maya had precisely $3.47 in her wallet and nowhere to put any of it. Lily was 6. She had a rare autoimmune condition. The kind that required a specialist, a specific hospital, a very specific city. That was why they'd left Seattle. That was why Maya had transferred jobs, found an apartment, started over. That was before the layoff. Before the apartment went with the job. Before the Honda Civic became the place Lily woke up every morning and called, with characteristic precision, our travel house. "She goes to Dernbecher," Maya said. "Thursdays. The pediatric team there is. They're good to her." The woman nodded slowly, like someone filing things carefully, rather than reacting to them. "There's a family support voucher program," she said, "run through Dernbecher's social services office, for families in medical transition. I believe it covers temporary housing." Maya looked at her. "I know that program." "Have you accessed it?" She hadn't. She'd read the pamphlet 3 times. Each time she'd put it back in the glove compartment. There was something about asking, something that required admitting a shape to the situation that Maya had not yet been willing to give it. "I can give you the coordinator's card." The woman reached into her coat pocket. The card she produced was plain, a name, a number, a hospital extension. "Tell them you're a volunteer in the pediatric program. I understand they're familiar with your work there." Maya took the card, looked at it, put it in her pocket beside the drawing. She refused twice. The first time, quietly. The second time, less quietly. The woman waded through both refusals without argument or pressure, which was the thing that finally wore Maya down. Not persuasion, just patience. "I'm not looking for charity," Maya said. "I just didn't want my daughter's birthday to be nothing." "It isn't nothing," the woman said. "She drew you a cake." Maya called the number. The coordinator picked up on the second ring, and yes, there was a room available through the program, and yes, they would be glad to help, and yes, of course, it was no trouble at all. Maya clicked off the call and stared at the phone. "Thank you," she said. The woman nodded once, the way people nod when thanks makes them uncomfortable. She stood, brushed a drop of rain from her sleeve. Maya walked to the parking lot. The Honda Civic was under the far street light, Lily's stuffed rabbit visible through the back window, propped against the glass with one ear pressed flat. She got in, started the engine, pulled out slowly. At the corner, she could have turned and seen the woman still standing at the edge of the parking lot, watching. She didn't turn. The woman waited until the taillights disappeared. Then she took out her phone and called her assistant. "Dana, I need everything on the Celeste Patisserie franchise management chain." She was already walking. Tonight. The hotel room was on the 2nd floor, overlooking the parking structure, with a window that let in the orange glow of the lot lights all night. It had white sheets and a small television bolted to the dresser and a bathroom with individually wrapped soap. Lily walked in and stopped in the center of the room with both arms out, rotating slowly, taking a full inventory. "Mama." "I know, baby. There are 2 pillows." "There are." Lily pressed both palms flat against the white comforter with the focused expression of a scientist confirming a hypothesis. Then she climbed onto the bed with Gerald tucked under her arm, turned on the television, and within 11 minutes was asleep with the remote still in her hand. Maya turned off the TV. She stood in the dark room and listened to Lily breathe. The small, steady rhythm of it, the way it deepened when she was fully under. She did that some nights, just listened. Some nights, it was the only thing that worked. She went into the bathroom, closed the door, sat on the cold tile floor with her back against the tub, and then, for the first time in 3 weeks, she cried. Not for long. She was not a person who cried long. She'd trained that out of herself in professional kitchens, where crying was a thing you did in walk-in freezers on your break, quickly and alone. But she cried, because the tile was cold, and the door was closed, and there was no one watching, and sometimes the body just takes what it needs, whether you plan it or not. She washed her face, looked at herself in the mirror for a moment, the dark under her eyes, the bun that had mostly come loose, the faded volunteer badge she hadn't taken off yet. She unpinned it and set it on the counter. She called Dornbecker's scheduling line and confirmed Thursday's appointment. The nurse on the line knew Lily's name without being told. The layoff letter was still in her memory with the clarity of something read too many times to forget. HR letterhead, March 14th. Due to restructuring, your position has been eliminated. We wish you well in your future endeavors. She'd been standing in the hotel restaurant's prep kitchen when her manager pulled her aside. She had still had flour on her hands. She'd driven back to the apartment. Their apartment, hers and Lily's, with Lily's drawings on the refrigerator and a window box she'd been trying to grow herbs in. And she'd looked at it and done the math in the time it takes to do math you've been dreading. First of the month was 11 days away. The termination clause gave her 2 weeks' pay. Health insurance ended at the close of the month. Lily's next treatment was in 9 days. She'd given the keys back on March 27th. She remembered the exact weight of them in her palm before she set them on the counter. She came back out of the bathroom. Her jacket was hanging on the back of the desk chair, and she reached into the pocket automatically, the way you reach for something you know is there. And her fingers found the small, waxy cylinder she'd forgotten about completely. A birthday candle. White, slightly bent, the kind that comes in a box of 12. She'd bought them in January for a practice cake she'd made with the pediatric group. They'd only used 11. She looked at it for a moment. Then she went to the desk and found the complimentary muffin the front desk had tucked into their key packet. Blueberry wrapped in cellophane, and she unwrapped it and pressed the candle into the top. She turned off the lamp, lit the candle with the book of matches from beside the in-room coffee maker. "Lily," she kept her voice soft. "Baby, wake up for 1 second." Lily surfaced slowly, blinking at the small flame. Her gap-toothed face was pillow-creased and confused, and then, suddenly, entirely present. Maya sang the whole thing, quietly, in the dark, in a hotel room above a parking structure in Portland, Oregon. Lily blew out the candle. In the moment before the smoke curled up and the dark came back, she whispered, "I wished for us to stay here forever, Mama." Maya sat on the edge of the bed until Lily's breathing deepened again. She didn't tell her that wishes didn't work that way. Some things you let a child believe until they're ready. She opened her notebook, a spiral-bound one, the cover soft from being carried in a bag for months. She turned to the next blank page and began writing. Flour, 2 pounds, food coloring, primary set. Piping bags, a dozen. Sprinkles, whatever was on sale. Next Tuesday's grocery list for the pediatric kitchen. She wrote until her hand was steady. Then she turned off the light and lay down beside her daughter in the white sheets, and for the first time in a very long time, she slept. Down the hall, the elevator dinged softly. Outside the window, the parking lot hummed. Somewhere across the city, a phone video was moving from screen to screen, gathering speed. Maya didn't know that yet. She was asleep. The dossier was 43 pages long. Dana had it printed, tabbed, and on Eleanor's desk by 7 the next morning, along with a fresh legal pad and a cup of coffee that was still hot, which was simply how Dana operated, as if the laws of time and temperature bent slightly in her vicinity. Eleanor sat across from her and read without speaking. Maya Reyes, Culinary Certification, Portland Community College, 2009, scholarship recipient, junior pastry role at a mid-tier hotel restaurant, promoted twice in 3 years, sous pastry chef at a Seattle boutique catering firm, head pastry chef at the Harlow Hotel, Seattle, 2018 through last March, 14 years of steady, documented, unspectacular excellence. Awards from 2 regional culinary associations, not the kind of career built on connections. The kind built on showing up every single day and being better than you had to be. Then, a layoff letter dated March 14th. Cost restructure. Position eliminated. 2 weeks severance. Eleanor set that page down carefully. The daughter's condition, she said. Rare autoimmune disorder. Specialist treatment only available at Dornbecker. That's why they moved to Portland. Dana pushed her glasses up into her hair. She transferred to a hotel restaurant here 4 months before the layoff, lost the income, the apartment, and the insurance in the same week. Eleanor was quiet for a moment. The volunteer program, she said. You found it. 4 months of Tuesday evenings, pediatric kitchen program entirely self-initiated. Dana opened to the last tab. I called the Dornbecker coordinator this morning. You were listed as a potential major donor inquiry, so she was forthcoming. She slid a single sheet across the desk. Eleanor picked it up. It was a printout of Maya's itemized receipts, each one photographed and filed with the volunteer coordinator as part of the informal program documentation. Flour, food coloring, piping bags, sprinkles, parchment paper, gel food dye 4 colors, more flour. The amounts were careful, precise. Bought by someone who knew exactly how much she had and spent it anyway. The total at the bottom was $214. Eleanor read it twice. She set it down on the desk and looked at the window. She was tired, so tired. The kind of tired that comes not from sleeplessness, but from 30 years in an industry that ran on the labor of people exactly like Maya Reyes, watching the petty machinery of institutional cruelty grind them down, while the people operating the machinery never once looked at what they were doing. Dana. Yes, she spent more on sick kids than most people spend on lunch. Dana said it quietly. Just that. Eleanor looked back at the dossier. Find out who the HR complaints against Walsh were filed by. Dana's pen was already moving. One more thing. Eleanor closed the folder. Any administrative barriers to her volunteer credential renewal. Address requirements, residency documentation. I want them quietly resolved. No contact from me directly. Just handled. Dana nodded and wrote it down. The legal pad was already on the next page before Eleanor finished her last sentence. Maya arrived at Dornbecker at 5:45, the same way she always arrived. 2 canvas grocery bags, 1 in each hand, the heavier one on the left because her left shoulder was stronger. The charge nurse at the pediatric wing entrance knew her name and buzzed her through without checking the badge. They've been asking since 3 o'clock, the nurse said. Maya smiled. Tell them 10 minutes. The pediatric kitchen was a small, bright room down the hall from the family lounge. 6 low tables, pastel walls, a half-size oven that worked perfectly, donated 2 years ago by a restaurant supply company and barely used until Maya started showing up. She unpacked her bags while the children filtered in with their parents, a girl named Sophia with her arm in a bandage wrap, twin brothers who always argued about whose frosting was better, a quiet boy named Eli who barely spoke but piped with startling precision, and Marcus. Marcus came in last the way he always did, wearing his hospital gown over a pair of sweatpants printed with cartoon dinosaurs. He was 7 years old, bald from 8 months of chemotherapy, and he moved with the careful, deliberate pace of someone who had learned not to waste energy. He climbed onto his stool and folded his hands on the table and looked at Maya with those enormous dark eyes, waiting. "Today," Maya said, "we're doing rosettes." She moved through the room with complete ease, adjusting a wrist here, demonstrating pressure there, narrating every step in plain language stripped of culinary vocabulary. Not because these children couldn't learn it, but because the point was never technique. The point was the look on a kid's face when something beautiful came out of their own hands. Marcus held his piping bag with both hands, tongue slightly out, absolute concentration. He finished, held it up. "Chef Maya." His voice was serious. "Is this good?" She looked at it. It was lopsided, uneven, the rosette slightly collapsed on the left side and enthusiastic on the right. "Marcus," she said, "that is the best one in this room." His face didn't break into a smile so much as it opened, slowly, like something that had been waiting for permission. The session ran 40 minutes. Maya was cleaning up when the hospital administrator appeared in the doorway. A woman she recognized from the volunteer orientation 8 months ago, with the particular expression of someone delivering news they'd been rehearsing. The credential renewal had been flagged. Permanent residential address required. 30 days to resolve or the volunteer authorization would lapse. Maya thanked her, kept her voice steady, finished wiping the counter. She sat in the Honda Civic in the parking structure afterward, the credential form on the passenger seat, and stared at the line that said, "Permanent address," the way you stare at something that is simultaneously a small administrative problem and the end of the only thing keeping you functional. She didn't know what she was going to do. She would figure it out. She always figured it out. But tonight she just sat there in the dark and didn't figure anything out at all. It started as 47 seconds of shaky phone footage on a Portland neighborhood Facebook group called PDX Community Notices. By midnight, it had 4,000 shares. Maya saw it at 11:43 on her phone in the dark hotel room while Lily slept. Someone had titled the post, "This happened tonight at Celeste Patisserie downtown. Share if you think this is wrong." The comments were already 300 deep when she found it. People she'd never met, furious on her behalf, tagging the bakery's account, tagging the mayor's office, tagging local news stations. Her face was clear in the footage, her volunteer badge, her cracked kitchen clogs on the polished marble floor. She watched the 47 seconds once. Then she put the phone face down on the bed. Fear moved through her before anything else. Not vindication, not relief. Fear, clean and specific. If this grew, it would grow toward her, toward them. Toward Lily's name, Lily's condition, the Honda Civic in the hotel parking structure that a journalist with 2 hours to spare could find in a single afternoon. Toward the volunteer credential form sitting on the passenger seat with permanent address still blank. Toward the child services office that Maya had been carefully, exhaustingly invisible to for 8 months. "Don't look at us," she whispered to the dark room. "Please just don't look at us." She made her decision. She would not post, would not comment, would not contact the news stations already sliding into the bakery's mentions. Whatever happened in that video, her job was to stay small, stay invisible, stay between Lily and the attention until it moved on to something else. She turned the phone over and opened her email instead. Across town, Brendan Walsh was not making the same decision. Without calling the Celeste Patisserie corporate communications team, without consulting the franchise PR coordinator, without sending a single email to legal, he opened the bakery's official social media account and typed a response. It ran to 4 sentences. It used the phrase, "Context is important" twice. It described Maya, without naming her, as a situation that had been mischaracterized by selective footage. He posted it at 12:17 in the morning. By 12:40, the comments had doubled. Eleanor's legal team flagged both incidents simultaneously at 6 the next morning. the original staff group chat post, and the unsanctioned PR response, and sent a joint memo to Eleanor's phone before she finished her first cup of coffee. 2 separate compliance violations. 1 manager, 1 franchise location. Eleanor read the memo, set down her coffee. She picked up the phone and called the Voss Family Foods board chair. "I need an emergency governance meeting," she said. "Wednesday. Tell them it's urgent and it concerns the Celeste franchise." She paused. "And tell them to clear the afternoon." She had also, that morning, received a call back from the attorney who had been quietly locating the former Celeste employees with HR complaints on file. 3 women. 2 had agreed to speak. The law firm was in the Pearl District, 12 floors up, with floor-to-ceiling windows and the kind of conference room that was designed to make people feel the weight of being taken seriously. Neutral carpet, a long table, water glasses already filled. Carla arrived first. She was 29, dressed in a blazer and pressed slacks, her natural hair neat and close, a folder on the table in front of her before Eleanor had finished introducing herself. She sat with her back straight and her hands folded, the posture of someone who had spent 18 months waiting for a room exactly like this one and intended to use every minute of it correctly. Simone came in 2 minutes later, younger, warmer in the face, with the slightly guarded quality of someone who had been asked to speak before and learned what happened when the room wasn't ready to listen. She sat down, looked at Eleanor, then at her hands. Eleanor did not open with questions. She opened with a statement. "I know what happened. I know the complaint was filed and never actioned. I know about the settlement. I'm not here to investigate. I already have everything I need to act. I'm here because you deserve to be in the room when it happens and because I want your accounts formally documented. Not for my benefit, for the record." The room was quiet for a moment. Carla spoke first. Her voice was even, measured. She had requested a schedule accommodation 18 months ago. Her daughter had an ear infection. She needed a morning shift swap, a single day. Brendan had brought it up in the staff meeting, in front of 6 colleagues. He'd made it a punchline. When she filed the complaint, HR logged it and she never heard another word. She wasn't angry when she told it. She was something colder than angry. She was a person who had decided the record needed correcting and was correcting it. Simone's account took longer. It had happened over weeks, not one day. Small humiliations that compounded, public comments that were always deniable, the kind of sustained contempt that leaves no single bruise but a general damage. She'd been 25, behind on rent. When the settlement offer came, $2,000, she signed it because she needed the money and because she genuinely believed that no one with any power would ever care. She said it plainly. "I signed that paper because I thought no one with any power would ever care." Eleanor held her gaze. "I care," she said, "and I have power." It wasn't a performance. It was just true, and both women in the room felt the difference. Eleanor's attorney documented both accounts. The termination for cause paperwork was already in progress, and quietly, without fanfare, without asking Simone to do anything except exist, Eleanor had instructed her legal team to begin the process of formally releasing Simone from the NDA. Voss Family Foods was the contracting party. They could waive enforcement. They would. Both women agreed to have their accounts formally documented. Carla walked out of that conference room the same person who walked in, but something had shifted, quietly, in the foundation beneath her. She didn't know yet that her ignored complaint was about to become the cornerstone of a policy covering 340 locations. She would find out soon. The letter arrived on a Thursday, slipped under the hotel room door while Maya was at Dornbecker with Lily. She found it when they got back. A single envelope, Dornbecker Children's Hospital letterhead, the volunteer coordinator's name in the return address corner. She opened it standing up, still in her jacket, Lily already pulling Gerald out of the bag behind her. The credential renewal had been processed. Address requirement resolved through an administrative accommodation for active hospital volunteers. No action required on Maya's part. She read it twice, then a third time. She had no idea how. She hadn't filed anything. She hadn't called anyone. She stood in the middle of the hotel room holding the letter and felt the specific disorientation of a person who has been quietly held up by something they cannot see. She didn't push on it. She folded the letter carefully and put it with Lily's crayon drawing in the inside pocket of her jacket, where she kept the things that mattered. The following Tuesday, she arrived at Dornbecker with her grocery bags and her steady hands, and taught the session the same way she always did, moving room to room, adjusting wrists, narrating steps, making it feel like the most ordinary thing in the world to create something beautiful when you are running low on everything. Marcus presented the drawing at the end of the session. He held it out with both hands, solemn as a ceremony. It was her, Maya, standing at the oven, tall and straight, surrounded by smaller figures with enormous heads and stick arms. Across the top, in his careful 7-year-old lettering, Chef Maya. She looked at it for a long moment. Her throat tightened. She kept her face steady for him. "This is the best drawing in this room," she said. He beamed. The coordinator pulled her aside as she was packing up, mentioned, offhandedly, the way people in pediatric care learn to deliver good news, gently, without ceremony, so it has room to land, that Marcus's most recent scan had come back better than his last one. Not a full result yet, but better. Maya nodded, thanked her, walked to the parking structure and sat in the car and allowed herself, for exactly 2 minutes, to feel hope about something she hadn't let herself hope about before. Marcus. Better. The word sat in her chest like a small, warm light. That night, she set his drawing on the hotel bed beside Lily's birthday cake drawing. 2 pieces of paper, 2 children. "Someone is watching out for us," she told Lily. "I don't know who, but I think we're going to be okay." Lily considered this seriously. "Is it Gerald?" "Maybe," Maya said. "Let's not rule it out." Across town, a photo of Marcus's drawing arrived on Eleanor's phone, sent by the coordinator who understood, without being told, that Eleanor would want to see it. Eleanor sat with it for a long moment. Then she asked Dana to have both drawings laminated. She placed them herself that evening at the center of the conference table. The board meeting was tomorrow. She wanted the room to see them first, before anything else. Maya's phone rang at 7:14 in the morning. She was in the hotel bathroom, Lily still asleep, the coffee maker cycling through its small industrial cough in the corner. She answered on the second ring. The voice was professional and warm and said things like potential opportunity and hospital food services development, and we'd love to have a conversation at your convenience. All phrases that landed strangely on a Tuesday morning when her convenience consisted of a hotel room and a child who needed her pigtails done. She said yes. She wrote down the address. She stared at it for a moment after she hung up. She didn't know the name, Voss Family Foods. She didn't think about it hard. She thought instead about what she had to wear. The hotel's lost and found was kept in a closet behind the front desk. The front desk clerk, a young man named Devin who had been quietly kind to Maya for the better part of 2 weeks, helped her go through it without asking why. There was a navy blazer, woman's size 8, slightly wide in the shoulders but clean and pressed. Maya tried it on in the lobby bathroom mirror. It was the right shape, close enough. She fixed Lily's pigtails in the car visor mirror, dropped her at Dornbecker's supervised family playroom. Lily knew the room well, knew the toys, gave Maya a businesslike hug, and went straight for the art table. Maya stood in the hallway for 1 extra second, watching through the window, her daughter already absorbed in something involving crayons and Gerald propped against a cup. Then she drove to the address. The Voss Family Foods building was downtown, 12 stories of glass and steel with a lobby that smelled like fresh flowers and floor wax. Maya stood in her cracked kitchen clogs and Devin's blazer and did not look down at her shoes. She had made peace with those shoes a long time ago. She was escorted to a conference room on the 9th floor. 12 people sat around a long table. They looked up when she entered. At the head of the table stood a woman with silver hair, a charcoal coat, short, unpolished nails, and the kind of posture that came from decades of walking into rooms and refusing to be underestimated. They recognized each other at the same moment: the bench in the rain, the wet parking lot, the card with the hospital extension. Maya stopped walking. Eleanor held her gaze. She did not rush it. "You don't know who I am yet," Eleanor said quietly, "but you're about to understand why I called you here." She gestured to the center of the table. Two laminated drawings lay side by side: a three-tiered birthday cake in purple crayon, and a tall woman at an oven, surrounded by small figures with enormous heads. Maya's composure, or the composure she had been holding like a structural wall for 8 months, began, very quietly, to fracture. Eleanor stood up. The room went quiet the way rooms go quiet when someone with real authority decides it's time. She didn't begin with words. She picked up the remote and pressed play. The conference room screen filled with bakery security footage, wide-angle, ceiling-mounted, time-stamped. The resolution was sharp enough to read the embroidery on Brendan Walsh's polo shirt. Every person at that table watched a woman walk in from the rain, speak quietly across a counter, and then stand completely still while a man performed her humiliation for an audience. They watched her thank him. They watched her leave. Nobody spoke. Eleanor let the silence hold for 5 full seconds after the footage ended. Then she advanced the slide. The staff group chat screenshots came next. Dana had printed them large enough to read from the back of the room: Brendan's message, the photograph of Maya he'd taken without her knowledge, the replies from 2 employees, the laugh reactions stacked beneath. Eleanor named the compliance violation plainly. He had photographed a customer on company premises and distributed the image through an internal channel without corporate PR approval. That alone was a termination-eligible offense under the Voss franchise conduct policy. She advanced again: Carla's account, Simone's account, each one formally documented, dated, signed. Eleanor read one line from each, not the worst line, just the clearest one, and moved on. The room didn't need drama. The facts were sufficient. She advanced again: Maya Reyes. 14 years of culinary career laid out in a single slide. Certifications, promotions, awards, the Harlow Hotel head pastry chef role, the layoff letter dated March 14th, Lily's diagnosis, the treatment schedule, the Honda Civic. One board member shifted in his seat. Eleanor advanced one final time. The receipt slide filled the screen. Every itemized purchase from 4 months of Tuesday evenings. Each one photographed, each one small, the total at the bottom in plain numbers: $214. This woman, Eleanor said, spent $214 she didn't have on children too sick to attend their own birthday parties, and your manager photographed her for a group chat. The room was absolutely still. I moved for immediate termination for cause, citing the customer photograph as the first compliance violation and the unsanctioned social media post as the second. 2 separate offenses, 1 manager, 1 location. She looked around the table. "I'll take a vote." 12 hands, unanimous. The whole thing took under 4 minutes. Eleanor set down the remote. She looked at Maya, who had been sitting at the far end of the table with her hands folded and her spine straight and her eyes very bright, holding herself together with everything she had. "There's something else I'd like to discuss with you," Eleanor said, privately. Maya nodded once. Her jaw was tight. Her hands didn't move. Down the hall, a phone was already ringing. Brendan Walsh was about to answer it. The smaller office had 2 chairs and a window overlooking the parking structure. Eleanor closed the door. Through the glass partition that ran along the hallway, voices were audible. Muffled, professional, and then, briefly, not professional at all. A single raised voice, the specific pitch of a person who has just understood something he cannot reverse. Then silence. Neither woman commented on it. Eleanor sat down across from Maya and looked at her directly, the way she had on the wet bench outside the bakery. No performance, no preamble, just the thing itself. "I want to offer you a role," she said. Executive Pastry Development Director for Voss Family Foods Hospital and Care Facility Catering Division, $94,000 annually. Full family health coverage, effective the 1st of next month. Maya said nothing. Her hands were very still in her lap. The Voss Family Medical Hardship Fund, Eleanor continued. I'm capitalizing it at $1.2 million. It will support hospitality industry workers facing catastrophic medical costs, people who fall through the same gap you fell through. It will exist because of what you survived, and because no one should have to survive it. She paused. And the kitchen program you built at Dernbecker, every Tuesday evening, 4 months, $214 out of your own pocket. I want to fund it formally, a proper equipped kitchen, paid staff support. I want it named Lily's Kitchen. And I want to replicate it across 6 additional children's hospitals in Oregon and Washington. She let that land. Projected to reach over 400 children annually. The room was quiet for a long moment. Maya's eyes were wet. She didn't blink it away. She just sat with it, because sometimes the body has held something for so long that when the weight finally lifts, the only honest response is to feel the difference. Why? She asked. Her voice was steady. Eleanor was quiet for a moment. This was the question she had been turning over since the wet parking lot, since the receipt spreadsheet, since the laminated drawings at the center of the table. She answered it the only way she knew how, without theater, without deflection. Because you kept giving when you had nothing left to give, she said, and I've spent 30 years in this industry waiting to meet someone like that. Maya looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. A single, small, complete nod, the kind that means yes to everything at once. I accept, she said. Then quietly, can I call Lily first? Eleanor stood without a word and stepped out, pulling the door softly closed behind her. Through the glass, she watched Maya take out her phone, watched her press the name at the top of her favorites list, watched her face change completely when the call connected, open and unguarded, the smile that had been behind the composure all along. Down the hall, Brendan Walsh's office had gone very quiet. Eleanor did not look that direction. There was nothing left to see there. By 3 o'clock that same afternoon, every general manager across all 41 Celeste Patisserie locations received an internal memo from Voss Family Foods Corporate. It was 2 pages. The first page announced the immediate termination of Brendan Walsh, franchise manager, citing 2 separate violations of the Voss Family Foods conduct policy. The second page announced the Voss Zero Tolerance Hospitality Conduct Policy, effective immediately, binding across all 340 Voss Family Foods properties. At the bottom of the second page, in plain language, was a citation. The policy's founding documentation named the original source, a formal complaint filed 18 months ago by a shift supervisor at the Portland flagship location. Received, logged, never actioned. Carla was at work when her phone buzzed with a message from Eleanor's assistant. She stepped into the hallway and read it twice. She stood very still for a moment. Her original complaint, the one she'd filed in a windowless HR office while her daughter was home sick, the one that had disappeared into a system designed to absorb rather than address, had just become the legal foundation of a policy covering 340 locations. She didn't cry. She simply stood in the hallway and breathed. Simone's phone call came from Eleanor's attorney. The NDA was formally released. Voss Family Foods, as the contracting party, had waived all enforcement. She was free to speak. She had been free since that morning, technically, but the call made it real. She sat with it for an hour. Then she called the local news station that had been circling the bakery story for 3 days. The story that ran that evening was not the story they had been planning to run. The headline read, Voss Family Foods CEO fires manager, launches $1.2 million, hardship fund after viral bakery incident. The segment ran 4 minutes. It included Eleanor's formal statement, a clip of Simone speaking directly to camera. Calm, clear, not performing anything, just finally telling the truth out loud. and a single comment from Maya, recorded in the Voss Family Foods lobby before she went to pick up Lily. "I hope the fund helps other families," she said. "That's all." The Dornbecker coordinator watched the segment from the nurses' station on the pediatric floor. When the anchor mentioned Lily's kitchen, the name, the funding, the 7 hospitals, she put her hand over her mouth. She cried. Not delicately, the full thing, because she had known. She had known since the first Tuesday Maya showed up with grocery bags and a plan, known the way people who work close to suffering learn to know things, in the chest, before the mind catches up. She had known what it was worth. It just took the rest of the world a little longer to see it. Maya picked up Lily from the hospital playroom at 4:45. Lily had made 3 drawings and eaten 2 crackers and taught a younger child how to make Gerald sit up straight against a cup. She took her mother's hand at the door. "Are we going back to the car tonight?" she asked. Maya squeezed her hand. "No, baby," she said. "We're not." 6 months is not a long time, and sometimes it is a lifetime. 6 months after the board meeting, Maya stood in a kitchen that smelled like warm butter and fresh paint and possibility. The room was bright, real overhead lighting, not the flickering fluorescent of the old pediatric lounge. Full-size counters at 2 heights, the lower ones built specifically for children, a professional half-deck oven, piping bags in 6 colors hanging in a row on a pegboard, orderly as a proper kitchen should be. On the wall beside the door, in clean embroidered lettering on a framed panel, Lily's Kitchen, Dornbecker Children's Hospital, founded 2024. Maya stood at the center of it in a chef's coat with Lily's Kitchen embroidered on the chest, and she kept her hands still at her sides the way she'd been trained, and she did not let herself cry. Not yet. The room filled slowly. Children and parents, a few nurses who had quietly rearranged their schedules to be there, the Dornbecker coordinator in her sensible shoes and beaded glasses chain, already visibly fighting the same battle Maya was fighting. Marcus came in with his mother. He was 8 months further into treatment than the first Tuesday Maya had met him, and the difference was written clearly in his face. Not fully well yet, not entirely his old weight, but the eyes were brighter, and his mother's hand on his shoulder was loose rather than gripping. He found his stool at the front counter with the same focused deliberateness, climbed up, folded his hands, and looked at Maya. Ready? Lily stood beside her mother in a tiny white apron that Dana had sourced from a children's restaurant supply company and presented without comment in a paper bag outside Maya's office door 2 days earlier. It was slightly too big. Lily wore it with complete authority. Maya spoke. She hadn't prepared the words. She'd tried the night before, sitting at the desk in the apartment that was simply hers now, simply theirs, with Lily asleep in the next room and Gerald propped on the nightstand. She'd written 3 drafts and thrown all of them away, so she just said the true thing. "I want to tell you something about these kids," she said. "People keep saying I gave them something. I want to correct that." She looked around the room, at Marcus, at the parents holding themselves together in the back row, at the coordinator pressing her reading glasses up onto her forehead. "They gave me something. Every Tuesday. They showed me that you can make something beautiful even when you're running out of everything, and I hope this kitchen teaches them the same thing." The room was quiet for a moment. Then it wasn't. Afterward, Eleanor found her at the counter reviewing the Lily's Kitchen replication schedule. 7 hospitals, start dates staggered across the next 18 months, projected to reach 412 children annually by year 2. Eleanor slid the list across the counter. Maya picked it up, read every line. 7 hospitals, 7 kitchens, 400 children who hadn't been reached yet. She looked up. She nodded. Slowly, completely. The nod of a person who understands exactly the size of the thing in front of her and is not afraid of it. She was ready. 1 year to the day. 1 year since the rain. Since the crayon drawing folded in a jacket pocket. since a woman stood straight in cracked kitchen clogs and said thank you to a man who deserved nothing from her and walked back out into the dark. The Celeste Patisserie flagship location closed to the public at 5 o'clock that evening. By 6, it was full again, not with the well-dressed clientele of its regular hours, but with children in hospital bracelets and parents who hadn't had a reason to celebrate in longer than they could easily say, and nurses who came on their own time, and a 7-year-old boy in a clean sweater who had been told very recently that his most recent scan showed no evidence of active disease. Marcus was in remission. He had heard the words from his doctor 4 weeks earlier and received them with the same serious gravity he brought to everything, nodding once, as if confirming information he had been quietly expecting. His mother had not been quiet about it. Maya had not been quiet about it either, alone in her car in the hospital parking structure, with her forehead on the steering wheel, allowing herself, for the full duration, to feel everything she'd been holding since the first Tuesday. She watched him hold a piping bag with both hands and the absolute concentration of someone who understood that some things required your full attention. Maya had baked the cake herself. 3 tiers, white and lavender, Lily's Kitchen written across the front in her cleanest script, the lettering she'd practiced for 14 years in professional kitchens and never stopped being proud of. She'd built it in the Dernbecker kitchen at 7 that morning, Lily asleep at home, the whole room hers and quiet and exactly right. Eleanor sat at the corner table. The same corner, the same chair as near as Maya could tell. She had a cup of tea and no quarterly reports, and she watched the room the way she watched everything, cataloging, appreciating, feeling more than she showed. Lily blew out 7 candles. She made a wish. She didn't say what it was. She pressed her lips together after and looked very pleased with herself, the gap-toothed smile arriving without warning the way it always did, disarming every adult in the room. Then Marcus climbed onto his stool at the counter. He reached for his piping bag with both hands, tongue slightly out, the old concentration back and settled and entirely his. He piped a frosting rosette onto his cupcake with slow, full attention. When it was done, he held it up, the same way he had held up that first lopsided cookie 11 months ago in a small, bright room down the hall, and he looked at Maya across the counter and waited. The whole room watched. Maya looked at the rosette. She looked at Marcus. She felt the full weight of the year, the rain and the bench and the hotel room floor and the blazer from the lost and found and the board meeting and the 7 hospitals and this room, this boy, this moment, and she let it all be present at once. "Marcus," she said, "that is the best one in this room." The room laughed. The room clapped. It was the kind of laughter that lives right next to tears and knows it, the kind that comes out of relief and joy and the specific happiness of watching something survive that you were afraid might not. Marcus beamed. The same slow opening, the same permission. Later, after the cake was cut and the children had gone home full and tired and happy, Maya hung 2 laminated drawings side by side on the kitchen wall, a birthday cake in purple crayon, 3 lopsided tiers, 6 candles, Mama's cake at the bottom, and beside it, a tall woman at an oven, surrounded by small figures with enormous heads and stick arms, Chef Maya written across the top in careful 7-year-old lettering. She stepped back and looked at them for a long moment. Some people give everything when they have nothing left. This is what happens when someone finally sees them.